Well, welcome back to episode 20 of the 755 Followed Me Home project. The last episode ended with the Overbought 855 running off into the sunset. What I didn't know, the engine was only seconds from destruction. So what was wrong? Let me begin by showing you the 855 is healthy and whole again. Well, I'm going to give you a little tour here with the 855, and I've left some of this Johnson grass and some weeds here, put a little load on the tractor. It's got about a half hour since the overhaul, and I'm running the engine at about anywhere 1800 to 2000 RPM, just putting about a half a load or a little bit more. Maybe you'll hear it do that. I'll run around down here and turn around, come back up, and let you see how it's working. Watch for any smoke when it starts. I'm putting the lift just as close as I can to the ground. This is a 4-foot bush hog. When someone says it's complicated, is it really, or is it just because they don't want to talk about it? Well, in this case, it's both. First, notice different graphics and soundtrack? Well, that's because I'm learning a new editing program and the different buttons and the way it does things. I'm hoping to settle on a theme, but until I do, I just ask you to watch for the new content. Coming up will be 2 episodes featuring a different 855. The first deals with the lift arms that refuse to lower, and second, a PTO that won't engage. The lift arm video will have to be redone because all of that was lost when the computer died. You'll want to check that one out because none of the manuals or popular online resources I found identified the problem. The PTO piece was started, but only partially done, so it will have to be recreated. So now that we have the computer problems and other things kind of brought up to date, let's find out what was going on with the 855 and see what was wrong. This is the part I really don't want to talk about. The engine didn't have any measurable oil pressure. As we dive into this, I'll need to follow my notes on the computer here, so bear with me. When the key is turned on, this is what we expect to see. No oil pressure, no alternator, and depending on temperature, that the heating aid is operating. I was ready to start and run the engine. Key on and wait for the intake heater light to go off. It didn't, but since it was over 60 degrees inside, I wasn't concerned, but made a note to check it out. Cranked the engine until it started. Noted that the heater light stayed on, alternator charged, and oil pressure went off. So I cleared a path, moved the tractor outside into the sun, and shut it off. Then I set up the camera so I could be able to video record the first run. Later, started the engine to move it back into the house, and I watched the oil pressure light, and it stayed on. The heater light was also on. At that point, I was confused and a bit nervous, and I thought the best thing to do was to see what was going on. Next came a game of changing the oil pressure sender. And remember, I'd never had this engine running before, so I didn't know what to expect. Well, the sensor wasn't the problem. I checked the sender wiring, noted that I didn't have continuity between the sending unit and the oil pressure idiot light. Then I ran a second wire, and that didn't make any difference. Still no oil pressure, but oil bubbled out of the sensor hole in the block when the engine would run. The oil pump was pumping, but there wasn't any pressure. By this time, I was stumped. I pushed the tractor inside, made coffee, and retraced my steps. The bare block had been hot tanked in Minnesota, sent directly to the machine shop. They bored it 20 over, flattened the block, pressed in new cam bearings, and then I assembled the engine here. Looking for any clues, I took a look at the engine block that came out of the tractor and that's when I noticed a plug in the main oil line from the pump. Checking the archived images, I found the problem. I missed a missing plug, and most of the oil was going right back into the pan. The only thing to do at that point was pull the motor and fix it. While I was still in there, I took the opportunity to check piston to head clearance, since we'd removed 10.5 thousandths, flattening the block and head. That was all good, and the inspection was completed with the installation of a plug and washer in the oil gallery. I just happened to have a few stills in my camera, as I'd planned on having video for reference. Unfortunately, that video was stored on the solid state drive that failed. Fortunately, the engine had oil pressure again. The only weird thing was that the oil pressure light kept staying on. Let me cut to the chase. Fortunately, the engine had oil pressure again, but the only weird thing about it was that the light stayed on. So let me cut to the chase here. I know a lot of you people out there would like to think about how these things all work and what doesn't work. Well, I'd like for you to tell me what you think is going on. Put your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll tell you in the next video. Let me remind you that the oil pressure sender is not the problem. Thanks for watching.